Hi everyone. So what can you do when you're in bed and you feel the frustration, the anger, the annoyance that you cannot sleep starting to creep up? Should you leave the bed in the bedroom? Should you take the middle path where you stay in bed and watch TV, read a book for example? Or should you be very stoic about it and just lie there, accept the fact that you're awake in bed at night time and hope that you drift off? So you've got three different options and I'm going to cover all three of them. And if you're new to the channel, so I'm Joseph Pannell, had chronic insomnia for 20 years, overcame it with what I now share, trained in sleep medicine, and now I help people from all over the globe overcome her insomnia with my kind, soft, gentle advice. Okay, so your three options that I just covered there. Leaving the bed and the bedroom, that is option one. So in CBTI, that is called stimulus control. Fancy name, it just means getting out of your bed if you're getting cross, annoyed and frustrated. Your option two, which is lying in bed, reading a book, watching TV, that is option two, which is called counter control in CBTI. Or you've got option three, which is often used in ACTI, where you accept the fact that you are in bed awake. You don't try and run away from it. You don't try and fight it. You're stoic, you're mindful, and you do not run away from that feeling. Because if you run away from that feeling, it means that you will never expose yourself to these thoughts. So three options, let's break them down one by one and help you choose which is the best option for you. So really the best option for you depends on where you're at with your sleep journey. So I'm going to talk about myself when I first started CBTI. The stimulus control, where I left the bed in the bedroom, that is what I first did. Now, why did I do that? Well, the language I used to describe my bed was pretty extreme, and the way I felt about being in bed at night time, I used to call my bed a torture chamber. The idea of being in bed awake and befriending wakefulness, especially when I first started CBTI, was just far too much. When I was in bed awake, I hated it, heart rate, body temperature, frustrated, counting down the minutes until the morning. I'd literally punch my bed sometimes. So when I first started CBTI, the permission to actually leave the bed in the bedroom was so helpful for me, because I thought, well, not only do I get to leave it, get to escape from that really horrible place, I've kind of been told that not only is it going to help me sleep tonight, because it will help bring down the anxiety, the stress, the worry, but it will also help decondition the brain that the bed is a place of anger, stress, worry, and rumination. So by leaving the bed in the bedroom, I'm helping my sleep over the long run, and I'm helping myself in the short term. So I started with stimulus control, where I would leave the bed in the bedroom and I would watch TV downstairs. And I wasn't happy about being in bed awake, but certainly I could be okay with it. And I think that's a question to ask yourself when you're in bed at night time. If you have that real strong association with the bed and the bedroom and you really want to escape it, I would say 100% do that. There's no failure to doing it. You haven't kind of lost anything. It is not kind of by not being able to stay in bed that you're somehow weak. It's you want to do whatever is helpful for you in that given moment. And the worst thing that you really don't want to do is lie in there in a dark room, fighting with your sleep, forcing your sleep, pleading with sleep. So if you don't want to do that, you've got full permission to leave the bed in the bedroom. Leave the bed in the bedroom, do something that you would ordinarily find relaxing and enjoyable. And of course, when you've got insomnia, there's nothing you find relaxing and enjoyable, because you want to be in bed awake. But please don't punish yourself for being awake at night time. I often hear people say, well, you should do something boring. Well, if you're doing something boring, you're punishing yourself for being awake, and people with insomnia are suffering enough. So something you would ordinarily enjoy, there's not much off the table. Films, TV, books, baking, all good stuff. And when you feel that relaxation starting to return, that is when you return to bed. When should you decide to do stimulus control? A good kind of analogy I like to think, when you light a newspaper, you first put a match to it, it kind of starts slowly, but then if you wait a while, that is a full-blown blaze. So often when it comes to choosing what time to do stimulus control, before you get into that real kind of terror, fight or flight state, kill the beast when it's little, put the newspaper out with a little bit of water before it goes full on ape, not that naughty word, ape, crazy, to a pen. So, perfect. Okay, so what if you're not in that position? What if you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, well, that doesn't sound like me. I don't like being in bed awake, but it's not the bedroom that I'm scared of. It's just the fact of being in bed awake, but I don't actually want to leave the bed in the bedroom. Plus, I've got maybe mobility issues, or just the thought of leaving a warm bed. It feels like an effort to me, creates more frustration, and it's really not something that I want to do. If you are in that camp, then 100% what you want to be doing is sitting up in bed, book, podcast, TV. I've said it before, TV is not going to cause you to set on fire. Good sleepers watch TV all the time. You know, it's so bizarre to me. All the things good sleepers are doing, people with insomnia are told they suddenly are not allowed to do. But if you think back to a time before you had insomnia, I'm sure you had loads of occasions where you would have fallen asleep in front of the TV. Good sleepers fall asleep in front of the TV all the time. Anything that you want to do, please do that in the middle of the night. And so these are your two options I'm giving you here. Stimulus control, where you leave the bed in the bedroom. Encounter control, where you sit up in bed, and essentially you would do stimulus control, but in bed. And so it really doesn't matter which one you choose, but the worst thing to do is lie there, getting cross, getting angry, getting frustrated, because that's when that little light to a newspaper will turn into a blaze, and so you want to avoid that. So what about being okay with being in bed awake, befriending wakefulness? And yeah, that is of course the end goal, but I think people have a kind of a misunderstanding of what befriending wakefulness means. Befriending wakefulness doesn't mean you have to be okay in bed and you've got to be lights off in bed or nothing. Befriending wakefulness can be being okay in bed and watching TV, being okay in bed reading a book. So it's not this kind of all or nothing thinking, but you have to be okay in bed, awake with the lights off, otherwise you cannot achieve the goal of being okay with being in bed. Befriending wakefulness is a kind of an acceptance about being in bed awake. It's no effort to try and forcibly move yourself from one state to another. So sleep should be about the absence of effort. And it should be about being okay with being awake. And so whatever you want to be doing to be okay with being in bed awake, TV, podcast, read a book, then surely that's better than lying there trying to accept being awake but not actually have that acceptance yet, or trying to fight with your thought patterns in the middle of the night, or try to distract from them. Because often what will happen is you'll have this kind of belief that you're not doing it properly if you cannot be okay with being in bed awake with the lights off, and it just adds another layer of struggle and suffering to your sleep. And I would say to you, you are going to reach a point when you become just as happy in bed awake as you are asleep. And you will get to the point where you'll wake up in the middle of the night. It'll be dark, you'll roll around, you'll feel completely comfy, completely happy, and you will drift off to sleep. But I would say never ever try and force yourself to get there. Patience, kindness, acceptance. I would say the last step of the run of the ladder, being okay with being in bed awake, lights off, dark room, and it never turning into this spiral of thought patterns. Even I say never turn into a spiral of thought patterns. With everything I know about sleep, I still have nights where I lie in bed, I wake up, my thoughts will start to ruminate, and I need to sit up in bed and watch TV. Or on some very kind of extreme nights, I might have a time where I want to leave the bed in the bedroom. 99% of the time I wake up in the middle of the night, because I'm not trying to force myself back to sleep, fight with my sleep, because I have that deep understanding that sleep will eventually come, and if it doesn't, that's fine, I can still have a great day tomorrow. Despite that, I don't have that anger, I don't have that frustration. Sleep will naturally come, but I didn't get to that point through effort, through force. It was just time, water, under the bridge, and patience, which is what all my teachings are about. This video has helped you. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.